Today I'm going to be reacting to one of the many videos talking about Mortal Kombat 1 is dying. Now, in case this video blows up and you don't know who I am or anything, I'm the last person to be considered a shill for Mortal Kombat. There are a lot of people that wrongfully think I just hate on the game for no reason, and that is not the case. Over all of these years, all I've wanted Mortal Kombat to do is be better. And I have criticized the company on decisions that they've made in the past games. And a lot of people have wrongfully looked at that criticism as hate. It's not hate at all. All I want is for Mortal Kombat to be the best it can be. So it is very disingenuous for some people to try to claim just because I don't agree with what everyone is saying for this game that I'm acting a certain type of way. I'm doing nothing but being myself, and I'm never going to stop being myself. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about this video, because there's a lot of videos just like this. A lot of people talking about Mortal Kombat's dying, and they don't have any correct information at all for the most part. So I'm going to watch this video and break down what he's saying is wrong and what he's saying that is right. So let's get into it. What he's saying.
Gaming franchise that Warner Brothers can generally rely on to perform well. If there's one gaming franchise that Warner Brothers can generally rely on to perform well, it's Mortal Kombat. Sure, the fighting franchise has had its fair share of ups and downs over the years, but there's a reason that it has grown into arguably the biggest fighting game franchise around, having delivered a number of stellar, standard-setting fighting games over the course of multiple decades. In fact, the last decade and a half or so has been almost a second golden age for Mortal Kombat, with the franchise having hit a rich vein of form ever since it rebooted itself in 2010, following which it has generally enjoyed widespread critical acclaim and commercial success with each of its outgoings.
So right when he says something I don't disagree with, I'm going to pause and break it down. Just letting y'all know.
Hope you're ready for some preemptive vengeance.
What the hell are you talking about, Cabal?
You, torturing me to get dirt on the Black Dragon.
With Mortal Kombat 1, however, things seemed decidedly different. After Mortal Kombat 11 came out, received extensive post-launch support, and effectively brought the series' ongoing narrative arc to a conclusive.
Okay, so this is the crap I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and replay this part right here.
At 1, however, things seemed decidedly different. After Mortal Kombat 11 came out, received extensive post-launch support, and effectively brought the series' ongoing narrative arc to a conclusive end.
Now that is just flat out wrong. I don't get... Look at this platform. This person has... Look at all of these subscribers. Not this person, this company. He just said something that's flat out wrong. Mortal Kombat 11 did not get continued support. The game got 2 packs and it was done, like most Mortal Kombat games. See, the funny thing is people are complaining about, oh, there's not a Kombat Pack 3 announcement. And I have a whole video talking about all the leaks if you want to check that out. But there's so many people complaining about, oh, there's no Kombat Pack 3. Okay, if there's no Kombat Pack 3, everyone, that means that NRS is going back to their normal scheduled programming. That's it. They make 2 sets of characters and then they're done. People are acting like this is out of the norm. This is not out of the norm. Y'all are just trying to find something to complain about. I get the other gripes of the game, but if you're mad that they're not coming out with a Kombat Pack 3, the only reason I feel like people should be mad if they just took Ed Boon at his word. Because Ed Boon said the game was going to be supported longer than other Mortal Kombat games, and it's not going to be if the leaks are true. But again, even if it's not, that just makes it normal. Again, all the games get 2 big DLCs and then they're done. So why is everybody acting like this is such a big deal? I really don't get it. I just seriously feel like they're trying to find something to complain about. So let's get back into this, because what he just said was flat out wrong. Like, there's no way around it. So this is the first strike, because a lot of people are giving out false information. Mortal Kombat 1 was not a continued supported game. The game got a regular amount of NRS support and then they were done. So that's 1 strike already. Let's keep going.
Most assumed that MK would be put on the back burner for a while. Make no mistake, this is and always has been one of Warner Bros.' biggest gaming properties, so not for a second did anyone think that Mortal Kombat 11 was the end of the series by any stretch of the imagination. But for many, the assumption was that NetherRealm Studios would take the opportunity to once again alternate between 2 active franchises and give us Injustice 3. But now, more than a year on from its launch, it's clear that Mortal Kombat 1 represents a bit of a rare slump for the franchise. That's not to say the game suffered poor reviews or sales, at least not in absolute terms. On paper, with a mid-80s aggregate score and over 4 million units sold as of August, Mortal Kombat 1 might not seem like a failure by any means. But there's little doubt that it has backslid from where the franchise was until not too long ago. Mortal Kombat 11, for instance, had managed to sell 8 million units within roughly a year and a half of its launch, which means Mortal Kombat 1 is selling at a significantly slower rate. At the time of writing this feature, there were above 1,700 players playing Mortal Kombat 1 on Steam in the last 30-odd minutes. Mortal Kombat 11, on the other hand, had 2,507 players playing in the same time period.
Okay. Boom, 2 more strikes. So let's listen to what he said right here.
At the time of writing this feature, there were above and over 4 million units sold as of August.
4 million.
Mortal Kombat 1 might not seem like a failure by any means. But there's little doubt that it has backslid from where the franchise was until not too long ago. Mortal Kombat 11, for instance, had managed to sell 8 million units within roughly...
Okay, so let's look at the comparison now, because this is another one that people might think that isn't a big deal, but it is. If you're looking at the difference of sales on both of the games, yes, the difference is substantial, but you have to remember Mortal Kombat 11 came out at a time where you could play it on multiple different systems. It was on last gen as well. So that's something that you have to consider as well. So this isn't a big strike, but still, that's something to be pointed out, that yes, MK11 sold very well, but it was on PS4, PS5, PC, all the Microsoft consoles. MK1 is only next gen, and you would be surprised how many people are still playing their rocket ship PS4. So that is something to point out. So then the second thing he said,
a year and a half of its launch, which means Mortal Kombat 1 is selling at a significantly slower rate. At the time of writing this feature...
So then he said this stupid thing about the Steam charts. Let me just get this out of the way, because the fact that people make this an arguing point lets me know you don't know what the heck you're talking about if you bring this up. Mortal Kombat has never, and I mean never, been popular on Steam. It hasn't. So there are people now trying to compare Mortal Kombat 11 numbers to Mortal Kombat 1 numbers on Steam. Bruh, MK11 has been on sale on Steam for like $5. Not even kidding. Like $5 for everything. That is why there's more players on there. And even if there were more or less players on there, it doesn't matter, because the Steam numbers have nothing to do with how successful the game is. Nothing. There are less than 1% of players who play Mortal Kombat are on Steam. So the fact that that is an arguing point there. So we're at 2.5 strikes. Let's keep going.
And had 2,507 players playing in the same time period, give or take. This is telling, because Mortal Kombat 1 was released last year, whereas Mortal Kombat 11 is more than 5 years old. It's selling poorly enough, in fact, that WB Games has allegedly decided to take drastic action. Though NetherRealm Studios has supported Mortal Kombat 1 with plenty of post-launch content in the form of a dozen DLC characters, several cameo fighters, and a story expansion with Chaos Reigns, it seems like that's going to be it. Known Mortal Kombat insider Fate Unknown recently claimed that though NetherRealm had initially planned on releasing a third year's worth of additional DLC fighters and another story expansion for Mortal Kombat 1, due to the poor sales of the aforementioned Chaos Reigns expansion, WB Games has decided against it. Clearly, interest in Mortal Kombat is currently uncharacteristically low, and looking at Mortal Kombat 1 and everything around it, it's not hard to understand why. And that's not just because of the fact that back-to-back Mortal Kombat releases might have just ended up being too much Mortal Kombat for some, and that's not even counting both games' post-launch content. One of the most common criticisms for this new Mortal Kombat timeline has been related to its story, with this proving to be another instance of a multiverse story attempting to chase a trend that the general audience has actually grown sick of by now. It's fair to say that the very concept of a multiverse story has worn out its welcome over the years, thanks primarily to Marvel and the many imitators it inspired.
I definitely agree with that one, because honestly, that's why I'm not really into those superhero shows and everything. Now, I did watch a lot of The Flash and Green Arrow and even Supergirl, the show, but when you get into those multiverses and all that stuff, it just makes it feel like the show has no impact. When, you know, a character can die and just be brought back as a different character from a different universe, it just makes you numb to the worlds. I don't like the time traveling idea and the fact that that has become a cop-out for all the superhero stuff and everything, but I was never big into that stuff anyway, personally. But that's why it's just hard for me to really, you know, get into that stuff, because the whole timeline thing, and now Mortal Kombat's on it. So I do agree with that one completely.
So, to see Mortal Kombat falling into that trap has been disappointing for many.
I agree.
May there be other timelines and titans to find.
It's just lazy writing.
Garrus? Liu Kang?
Easy, Kitana. You are among friends.
The storytelling in both Mortal Kombat 1 and Chaos Reigns has been roundly criticised, from the writing feeling too fan-servicey or major plot developments seeming rushed and underbaked to the general lack of stakes, thanks to the literally infinite clones of every character out there, and that's just scratching the surface. And that's not it, of course. Chaos Reigns in particular has received widespread criticism from the Mortal Kombat fanbase for more than a few reasons, on top of its narrative deficiencies, which we've already touched on. The expansion is too short, it's priced too steeply relative to how much content it offers, and overall doesn't feel like the sort of comprehensive package that it needed to be.
Now that's another one I agree with. Chaos Reigns, the story, overall, a bad idea. First of all, no one cares about Havoc. Havoc is not a draw. I know there's, you know, a couple Havoc fans that really like him, but the exception is not the rule. Havoc is not even nowhere near popular as some of the most popular characters. So making a story around him is not a draw. So then they buffed him to being very dumb, and then they made a story revolving around him, and it wasn't even I'm not going to say it was a bad story. It was just too short. He's right. It was flat out too short. And I remember by the end of it, I was like, this is it? Like, that's it? Spoilers. You know, I'm going to have a spoiler warning right here. And just go ahead and skip ahead if you don't want to hear the spoiler part. But the fact that Noob just beat him like nothing was like, okay, so is Noob as strong as a Titan now? What's going on? How did Noob just beat Havoc Titan like he was nothing. And it was just lackluster. So I definitely agree with that. But again, if you look back on MK11, people complained about Aftermath too. They complained about the price. They complained about everything in Aftermath as well. See, the thing is, this is a common trend in fighting games. And one of y'all that's hearing this right now, this is really going to stick with you. I want you to come back to this video when this happens. Every fighting game that comes out, people always try to say the last one was better and forget the criticisms of the last one. Mortal Kombat was genuinely a terrible game. I could go on for days on how bad that game was. And a lot of other people could too, but it seems like now with Mortal Kombat 1 out, everybody just conveniently forgot how bad Mortal Kombat was and all the issues that the game had. And they're going to do that again with this game. When MK12 or MK2 comes out, there's going to be people saying that MK1 was so much better. It just happens. And the fact that people are doing this even with MK11, when I personally know how trash that game was, yeah, this is just normal. People always forget the criticisms of the game beforehand. So let's continue.
After fans had already been left disappointed by the base game itself. Unsurprisingly, Mortal Kombat 1's monetization practices haven't proven popular either. We touched on the overpriced chaos.
That's all Warner Brothers' fault. Again, this is Warner Brothers' fault. A lot of people don't realize right now, but Warner Brothers is trying to use Mortal Kombat to make up for their other failed games. And because they're trying to do that, Mortal Kombat ends up suffering because they have to make up for all the other failed games and the investors trying to get their money back because they just messed up on other games. As simple as that. So then they have to heavily monetize things because Warner Brothers is telling them to. It's simple as that.
But on top of that, similar controversies have also emerged thanks to the pricing of fatalities, nickel and diming with alternate skins and announcer packs, and the sort of FOMO exploiting practices that we see in games all too often. Granted, aggressive monetization is a great...
There's nothing wrong. I never understand when people complain about cosmetics. You do not have to buy cosmetics. You don't have to buy an announcer pack. If they cost too much for you, just don't buy them. Literally, that's how games make their money. And I understand that it might bother you if it's overpriced or something, but you just don't have to buy it. It's that simple. Game companies aren't dumb. They know that a lot of people will just buy cosmetic items just because they like how they look. And they will spend the $5 or even $15. Heck, look at Fortnite. Fortnite literally became a multi-million-dollar company off of people buying skins and having good developers. But that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is if you have a problem with cosmetic things, just don't buy them. I don't get why that's an arguing point.
Epidemic in games in general, especially where fighting games are concerned. But for a game that has more than a few issues elsewhere, egregious monetization becomes harder to forgive, which is exactly the situation Mortal Kombat 1 finds itself. To be entirely fair, the game itself has its fair share of strengths. From its typically top-notch production values and its gorgeous visuals to the stellar fighting mechanics, Kameo system, and more, Mortal Kombat 1 has enough on offer to keep genre fans satisfied for a good amount of time.
And this is another thing where I know he doesn't know what he's talking about. A lot of people do not like the Kameo system. Now, I made a video completely talking about how I feel about the Kameo system. I made it at the same time as I'm making this one, so I don't know which one I'm going to drop first. But again, that is a common thing that people complain about. So that's another thing, man. You don't know what you're talking about. People give these people voices. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, he has a voice to talk about a game that he knows nothing about. He just doesn't know anything. People complain about cameos so much. I'm not going to say he doesn't know anything. He knows a bit. But to be on a platform this huge you need to know what you're talking about if you're going to be making bold statements. And he's just been wrong about so much.
The problem, however, is that expectations from Mortal Kombat generally tend to be higher, and with this outing, the series has definitely fallen short. The fact that it's only spiraled further downward with the Chaos Reigns expansion did it no favors either. If it did indeed perform poorly and prompted a cancellation...
Okay, this is another thing that I made a point in one of the last videos I made. A lot of people need to realize that Mortal Kombat 10 was peak. That game was fire. MK11 did so good, first of all, because it had crossplay era in it. And not crossplay era, it had all the gens in it. It had old gen, new gen. That's what I meant to say. And the crossplay came later, but it had the old gen, the new gen in it. It also was around COVID time. A lot of people were staying at home. Again, there were a lot of factors on why that game did so well. And the main factor is it rode the success of MK10. That's what it did. A lot of people need to realize that MK10 was peak. That game was fire. And guess what? People complained about that game all the time when it was out, but didn't appreciate it until 11 came out. But the difference is you can still find a competitive scene for Mortal Kombat 10 to this day. Shout out Unbearable Skill because he's holding it down for the competitive scene in Mortal Kombat 10. Again, there's literally a thriving competitive scene for a game that is almost 10 years old. That is insane. And I won't go as far as say like really thriving, but it's alive. That's a better way to put it. Let's get to the main topic at hand before I get off topic. The main point I'm trying to make is I personally feel like, this is how I personally feel, MK11 rode the success of 10. 10 was peak. A lot of people love 10. You ask most people what is their favorite Mortal Kombat game of the NRS era, most people will tell you 10. They will. The game still has a competitive scene to this day. 11 doesn't, just like I knew it wouldn't, because that game is garbage. Yes, you might still have some people playing, on their rocket ship PS4 and the couple of people that got it for freaking $5 on Steam. And since that wants to be a talking point now, which is ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is there's still a competitive scene for 10 and there isn't one for 11. That is, again, a big deal. That should show you how people actually think about the game. People need to stop acting like MK11 was just this critically acclaimed love game. No, people complained about that game way more than they complained about, that they are complaining about 11. Do not let these people fool y'all. Do some research. Please do some research. But again, main point, I feel like 11 rode the success of 10.
Of future post-launch plans for MK1, it wouldn't surprise us. What that means for the future of Mortal Kombat is the question that many will ask, though it seems safe to assume that the series' future is secure, to say the least, even with this stumble taken into account.
Okay, at least he's smart enough to know that.
WB Games confirmed that it was refocusing efforts on a narrower set of major gaming properties, and explicitly mentioned Mortal Kombat as one of them. Clearly, we're going to see plenty more Mortal Kombat in the future. What form that will take should be interesting to see. Mortal Kombat 1's time in the sun.
So do y'all hear that? Again, at least he's smart enough to know that everyone's acting like the series is just dying or it's coming to an end. Again, this is their normal scheduled programming. They support the game for like 2 packs and then they're done. If they were going to do something different, that would have been more. That would have been alternate. It wouldn't have been the norm. The game being done after 2 packs, everyone, is the norm. So stop trying to find something to be mad about unless you're just mad at Ed Boon not sticking to his word. I get that. But again, back to the video.
Seems to be done, which probably means we're going to get a new installment earlier than expected. How NetherRealm Studios will look to address the biggest narrative-related complaints that many have had with MK1 and its expansion remain to be seen, but clearly, the developer is going to have to do something. Does that something involve taking a break from the series, developing Injustice 3, and then going back to Mortal Kombat in the aftermath?
Okay, they're not going to do that. If, again, I'm going to just call you Tom. I don't know your name, but Tom, if they are making another Mortal Kombat soon, they're trying to recoup money. Mortal Kombat makes more money than Injustice. So that doesn't make sense. They're not going to make another Injustice unless, you know, they're making another Mortal Kombat right away with it, but they're not going to focus on an Injustice. I don't think so, because again, they're trying to make money here to make up for their failed projects. So them making a game that makes less money than Mortal Kombat doesn't make sense.
I, for one, wouldn't mind that in the slightest. Hell, I'd prefer it. We've had an unbroken string of several consecutive years of Mortal Kombat activity, so maybe the smart decision now would be to avoid fatigue and burnout and maybe let something else shine for a while.
Don't want to seem like I'm nitpicking on the last part, but he was wrong about the last part. He said 7 years we've got nonstop MK. It has not been 7 years. It has been 5 years. And again, this is not me trying to nitpick. I'm just keeping it real, calling out what he's wrong about in the video. So to get my final conclusion on everything, again, that's why I made this video. There's just so much misinformation being spread about the game. And it's really annoying to see because there's so many people trying to hop onto this topic and they don't know what they're talking about. And being somebody who's been invested in playing their games for years, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the game. So to hear all of these major outlets just spreading all of this crap and they don't know what they're talking about is insane. And if I'm going to keep it real, because a lot of people are probably wondering why I'm defending them right now when it seems like everyone else is against them, and it would just be natural to jump on the ship and attack them too. If I'm going to keep it real, I feel like overall, besides the story mode expansion in Chaos Reigns, I feel like they've been doing a decent job with the game, honestly. They were communicating more before, you know, all the leak stuff. The patches have been consistent and they have actually changed the game and made the game better overall. The game has slowly been becoming a good game. It really has. Well, I feel like the game at base was already good. I would say the game was becoming a great game. So it kind of does suck for it to be ended early, in my opinion, but I don't think it's that deep because at the end of the day, that just means we get another Mortal Kombat game. But overall, that's why I don't get all the animosity, because if you actually play the game, you know that they've been doing a solid job with the patches and they have been slowly but surely making the game better. Again, if the normal take on the game was it was going to be supported for longer, all the animosity that people had towards the game made no sense, because if a game is supported longer, you give it time to get better. But now I understand if people want to be mad at the state of the game, because if they're what they have been doing is slowly but surely making the game better. But if the game is going to be done quick, if those leaks are true, as per usual, then I understand why people could get more mad at the state of the game, even though if you're looking at it as a real fighting game player, somebody who really plays fighting games, you know that some fighting games take a while to become good. And that's why I feel like Mortal Kombat gets unfairly judged, because the games don't last long enough to get to a level to where it can be widely respected in the FGC. They're just done quick. So that's why I really wanted this game to go the distance. I wanted to see what we were going to get out of a Mortal Kombat that was actually going to be supported for a while. And if that is going to change now, yes, that does suck. I personally think it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. You just get another Mortal Kombat. So again, I feel like people are just doing the most with all of this information. But if you are mad at Ed Boon because he wasn't true to his word, I understand. But even at the end of the day, you know, not every decision falls back on him. You know, them people at Warner Brothers want to make their money. So it's as simple as that. But that's just what I think about everything. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out here, and I should probably do a whole video on how Mortal Kombat has been unfairly judged, in my opinion, up until now. Up until the leaks, I think it was unfairly judged. After the leaks, if the leaks are true, okay. But before that, that's what I want to talk about. But either way, I just feel like, again, a lot of misinformation is out there. If you want to actually know the truth about anything regarding MK, just hit me up in the comments. I read all the comments, all that good stuff. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. The video is longer than I want it to be. And Nickopz out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out my membership if you want to support the channel.